So in today's video, I'm going to be comparing the HP Spectre x360 14 with the MacBook Air with an M1 chip. So just to get started, I'll wake devices up from sleep. As you can see, the HP doesn't wake up instantly. On the other hand, the MacBook Air is able to wake up instantly. So just to get started on the displays, the HP is 1080p, the MacBook Air slightly higher resolution at around Quad HD. The HP display is a bit taller. That makes it better for productivity, but not as good for watching content, especially if it's 18:9. Whereas the MacBook Air is sort of a balance between productivity and watching content. The HP has benefits of being touchscreen and having pen support. Another thing I've noticed is in terms of reflections on the screen, they're quite similar between the two devices. So they both have good anti-reflective coating. Now, to start off with the HP, you can actually fold it into a tablet like this. It clicks it into place. And then, for example, if I go to OneNote, I can start writing. You can just press a button and then rub it out as well. So that's quite good. Overall, I'd say that the pen support works all right, but not perfectly. Sometimes I'd have the issue where my palms would actually cause pen inputs on the device, and I found other Windows devices like the Yoga C940 worked a lot better, and for example an iPad will also work better, I'd say, for note taking. So it's not working as perfectly as it should do. Then with the MacBook Air, obviously it doesn't have that feature. You'll have to buy a separate device for that. Now to move on, we'll look at the speakers. So this is just a YouTube video. I'm singing, take me to a world of silver, no more heartbreaks, tears, painkillers, take me somewhere unfamiliar, bring me back to where we started. And on the Mac. So overall I'd say I slightly prefer the speakers on the HP, just because the bass is better, and especially for the music that I listen to, I just find the sound a lot better on the HP. The benefit of the MacBook Air is that the speakers are up firing, so it's not possible to block it whilst you're using it on your lap, for example, whereas the HP will get blocked. And even though it has two up firing speakers as well as two down firing speakers, I think most of the volume comes from the bottom. So that's something to bear in mind. Then in terms of the keyboard, I found that the keyboard on the HP device was a lot better in my opinion. It has deeper travel and a better feedback. So I just found myself more comfortable with using that device. The downside of it is that the keys are shifted to the left, and so it takes a bit of getting used to, whereas the MacBook Air doesn't have that issue. In terms of the trackpad, I found that the HP trackpad I also prefer. I think this is because I'm just used to a trackpad that you click on and you have a physical click, whereas the MacBook Air doesn't have that. That was a little annoying. I think they're both large trackpads, and I didn't personally find any benefit from the large trackpad on the MacBook Air. Now in terms of performance, I'd say the performance between the two devices is quite similar in normal use, and if I do a single core test, it's not that big of a difference between the two devices. The MacBook Air does win, but not by much. But in terms of multi-core performance, the MacBook Air is a lot better, and combined with the fact that often apps are better optimized for the MacBook, I'd say that, you know, if you want to do something like video editing, the MacBook Air will be the better device. Now in terms of the HP, a problem I've had is the fan noise on it actually gets quite loud, and then it quietens down over time. So when you're using it long term, the fan noise isn't annoying at all, but the problem is the fans will ramp up and then ramp down again. So I did find that quite annoying, and this is something that HP really should fix in their software. On the MacBook Air, you obviously don't have a fan, so that's not even an issue. Another issue I had with the HP device is that it actually gets quite warm in this area. So it means when you're using it on your lap, it's not very comfortable, and I would be worried about using it long term. With the MacBook Air, it was perfectly cool during normal use, so that's obviously a lot better on the Mac side. In terms of the battery life, I did a simple YouTube 4K test playing at reasonably high brightness indoors with speakers on, and the MacBook Air drained 8% in an hour, and the HP drained 10% in an hour. So the difference wasn't as big as I was expecting, but you have to bear in mind the HP is a low resolution display, and it also has a bigger battery, so that sort of compensates for that. I think with more intense tasks, like for example doing a video call, the MacBook Air greater efficiency of the M1 chip will help it in that. So it will probably get significantly better battery life in terms of that. But with very light use, I found the HP to have better battery life. For example, if you're just browsing a Word document or typing a Word document, I think the HP is slightly better there. Now, to move on, in terms of the ports, we have two USB-C ports there. They're Thunderbolt 4 and a USB-A port on the left side. That USB-A port is quite handy, and an annoying thing I found was the USB-C port doesn't work with a 4K 60 FPS display, and that was quite annoying since it's advertised on their website to work, but you can adjust it in the BIOS to allow it to work. But I really don't think that's good on a device that's advertised for it to work on. The MacBook Air works with a 4K display perfectly fine, but it is missing a USB-A port, which would be quite useful. Now, in terms of the difference between Windows and Mac OS, I personally prefer Windows, and that's probably because I've been using Windows all my life. I prefer how, for example, when you put a tab in full screen, you still have the taskbar at the bottom, whereas on the Mac you don't. And there's also no snapping features on the Mac. So overall, I'd say that, Windows is better for me, but, whatever you used previously will probably be better for you. So whatever software is on your current laptop, you'll probably prefer. Now, in terms of the price of these laptops, they're both priced quite similarly with the same storage. The HP does have, extra features like touchscreen and 2-in-1 functionality, but the MacBook Air obviously has a lot better performance without even having a fan. So there are benefits and disadvantages to both devices. I'd say the build quality between the two devices is pretty similar, and I'd say that the webcam is also quite similar between the two devices. So it's really whatever benefits and disadvantages suit your own use case, and that's what I'd recommend. So thank you for listening, and please subscribe and like for more videos.